Growing older, growing happier. 8 things to let go of for peace of mind. What if I told you that the secret to true happiness in your later years isn't in working harder, but in doing less? In a world where productivity is celebrated like a badge of honor, where the rush for success and validation never seems to end, we are often led to believe that the more we do, the better our lives will be. From the moment we wake up, society pushes us to chase more achievements, more material possessions, more recognition. We've been conditioned to believe that aging means slowing down, fading into the background, and losing purpose. But what if the exact opposite is true? In this video, we're going to explore a radical, yet profoundly liberating idea that doing less is the path to greater joy, peace, and contentment as we age. You see, Buddhism teaches us that happiness isn't found in accumulating more things, more goals, more approval, but in the art of letting go. What if I told you that the key to a fulfilling life in your later years is not about being busy, but about being present, releasing attachments, and embracing simplicity? As we grow older, we begin to realize that what we've been chasing often doesn't bring the peace we've longed for. Instead, it can leave us exhausted, anxious, and disconnected. The Buddha, in his infinite wisdom, shared a powerful message. True freedom comes not from doing more, but from letting go. Letting go of the endless need to perform, letting go of unnecessary worries, letting go of the pressure to fit into a mold designed by others. Imagine, just for a moment, a life where you can stop the never-ending hustle, where you can release the weight of expectations and perfection, and where you embrace the art of simply being. What would it feel like to stop chasing approval and start living authentically? This is the profound gift that Buddhist teachings offer us, a way to reclaim our peace by doing less and releasing the burdens of our past. Today, we'll dive into 8 powerful ways that you can become lazy in your later years, not to neglect or disengage from life, but to make wise choices about where you place your energy. This isn't about apathy. It's about setting boundaries, finding joy in simplicity, and embracing peace. When you let go, you invite peace and lightness into your life. So, I invite you to stay with us throughout this video. This isn't just about theory, it's about actionable steps you can take to live a life filled with peace, freedom, and authentic joy. The wisdom we're about to share comes straight from the teachings of Buddhism, and trust me, it has the power to transform your perspective on aging, happiness, and living a full life. Before we begin, take a moment to think about this. What if the most freeing thing you could do right now is to let go of all the expectations you've been carrying? Imagine the peace and the clarity that would follow. And if you feel moved by this idea, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel because we'll continue to explore these profound teachings together. You won't want to miss a single moment of this transformative journey. Now let's explore the wisdom of doing less and living more. Chapter 1: Letting Go of the Need for Approval. As we journey through life, particularly in our later years, one of the greatest burdens we carry is the constant need for approval. From the moment we are born, we are shaped by the expectations of others, our parents, teachers, friends, society. We are taught to seek validation, to prove ourselves worthy, and to chase after praise. For much of our lives, this drive for approval can feel like an endless race, a race we cannot win, because the finish line always moves further away. But as we age and as we begin to reflect on the lives we've led, we realize that this pursuit has drained us emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Buddhism teaches us that true peace and happiness come not from external validation, but from an internal alignment with our deepest truth. The Buddha famously said, "Let go of attachment to approval and disapproval." In these simple words, he revealed a profound truth: the opinions of others are not yours to carry. They are projections of their own experiences, biases, and insecurities. To cling to these opinions is like chasing the wind. It moves constantly, and no matter how hard you try, you'll never catch it. In our younger years, the fear of judgment often drives our decisions. We tailor our lives to fit into molds that society deems acceptable. We suppress parts of ourselves to fit in, and in doing so, we lose our authenticity. We may ask ourselves, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Will they like me? These questions haunt us, shaping our actions and thoughts and slowly building walls around our true selves. But as the years pass, something shifts. We begin to tire of the chase. At some point, we realize that the energy spent seeking approval is energy we could have invested in something far more meaningful, ourselves. This is the turning point. When we stop chasing validation and start embracing our authentic selves, free from the constraints of societal expectations. Take, for example, the story of the Buddha. Before his awakening, he was a prince surrounded by luxury and power. Yet he was constantly searching for something deeper, something beyond the approval of others. He saw that no matter how much he gained or how much he was adored, he was never truly at peace. It wasn't until he let go of the pursuit of external validation, when he sat beneath the Bodhi tree and stopped striving, that he found the peace he had been seeking all along. As we age, we too are invited to release the weight of people-pleasing. We may no longer have the energy to keep up with the expectations of others, and we may finally understand that those who truly matter in our lives will love us for who we are, not for the image we project. The truth is, the people who genuinely care for us will see beyond the masks we wear. They will see the authenticity, the vulnerability, and the wisdom that comes with embracing our true selves. This release of approval is not about becoming indifferent to others or disregarding relationships. It's about understanding that our worth does not depend on someone else's perception of us. In fact, when we stop internalizing judgment, we open ourselves to deeper connections based on truth and mutual respect. A powerful example of this can be found in the life of a well-known Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. He spoke often about the importance of being true to oneself and not being swayed by the opinions of others. In his teachings, he shared a story of a man who sought his advice on how to deal with the constant judgments of his community. Thich Nhat Hanh simply said, "When someone criticizes you, it is not about you, it is about them." This simple yet profound message reminds us that when we free ourselves from seeking approval, we reclaim our inner peace. It is not easy to let go of this need for approval. It takes practice, awareness, and patience. But as we grow older, we begin to realize that the more we let go of these external concerns, the lighter we feel. We start to live in alignment with our own values, embracing who we are without the fear of judgment. We no longer waste our precious time second-guessing every word or action. Instead, we live authentically, confidently, and peacefully. At the end of our lives, what will matter most is not how well we pleased others, but whether we lived true to ourselves. The Buddha's teachings invite us to walk our own path with confidence, releasing the need for validation from others, and instead cultivating a deep sense of worth from within. So, in this stage of life, I invite you to reflect. What would it feel like to stop chasing the wind? What would it feel like to release the need for approval and simply be the person you were always meant to be? This is the true path to inner peace. And it begins the moment you stop looking outside yourself for validation and start trusting the wisdom that already resides within you. Chapter 2: Stepping Away from Arguments and Drama. As we age, we often find that the things we once thought mattered, the debates, the arguments, the need to be right, lose their significance. With each passing year, the wisdom that comes from life's experiences helps us see beyond the surface of conflict. We begin to realize that most arguments aren't driven by truth or justice, but by ego. We argue to protect our image, to assert our position, and to defend our beliefs, but in the end, these struggles are often fruitless and exhausting. The Buddha, in his infinite wisdom, taught that attachment to winning arguments only leads to suffering. To hold onto the need to change someone else's mind is a fruitless endeavor, for no amount of reasoning will sway a mind that is not open. How many times have we engaged in heated debates, convinced that if we just explained ourselves better, the other person would finally understand? But the Buddha's teachings gently remind us that our desire to win is rooted in ego, not truth. The ego seeks validation, while the truth simply is. In these moments, we are reminded that when our hearts are set on winning, we lose sight of peace. In our youth, we may have engaged in these battles more fiercely, thinking that we needed to prove our worth or defend our position. But with age comes the realization that many of these struggles are not worth our time. We learn that the peace we seek cannot be found in winning arguments or in forcing others to see things our way. The more we engage in these battles, the more we expend our energy and peace in places that do not serve us. Consider the example of the Zen master who was once asked by a student master, "How do I achieve inner peace?" The master quietly responded, "Stop arguing with yourself and stop arguing with the world." This simple teaching illustrates a profound truth. Peace is not something that can be found in external validation or in convincing others of our rightness. Peace is cultivated within through the practice of silence and the ability to step away from conflict. The Buddha taught us the importance of right speech, which includes speaking with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. It's not simply about what we say, but when we choose to speak, and when we choose to remain silent. As we age, we realize that silence can be a more powerful response than any argument. By stepping away from conflict and not engaging in drama, we conserve our energy for what truly matters, our own inner peace. There is a story in the Buddhist tradition of a monk who was constantly insulted by a neighboring village. The villagers would mock him, throw stones, and call him names, but the monk would always respond with kindness and silence. One day, a disciple, frustrated by the insults, asked, "Master, why do you let them treat you this way? Why do you not defend yourself?" The monk calmly replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The disciple, puzzled, responded, "It belongs to the person offering the gift." The monk smiled and said, "Exactly. The insults are their gift. I choose not to accept it." This story teaches us a powerful lesson. We have the choice to accept or reject the conflict, the drama, and the insults that come our way. Just like the still lake, which remains undisturbed despite the stones thrown into it, we too can choose to remain undisturbed in the face of adversity. By stepping away from the constant pull of drama and conflict, we conserve our inner energy, allowing ourselves to remain calm, centered, and focused on what truly matters. One of the great freedoms that comes with age is the ability to detach from the need to engage in every conflict. We realize that our energy is better spent on nurturing our relationships, cultivating compassion, and preserving our peace of mind. Instead of reacting to every provocation, we learn the art of responding with grace. This is the essence of Buddhist mindfulness, not to react, but to respond from a place of awareness and wisdom. As we move further into our later years, we come to understand that it's not about being right or winning battles. It's about being at peace with ourselves, regardless of the opinions or actions of others. In this quiet peace, we find a strength that comes from within. It's the strength of knowing that we do not need to prove ourselves to anyone. We are enough just as we are. The lesson here is simple, yet profound. When we let go of the need to be right, when we step away from arguments and drama, we create space for true peace. In the stillness of that space, we find clarity, wisdom, and a deep sense of contentment that no argument could ever provide. So in the moments when you feel the pull of conflict, remember the still lake. Choose silence, choose grace, and choose peace. By doing so, you honor the wisdom that comes with age and the serenity that arises from living in harmony with the world around you. Chapter 3: The Power of Non-Attachment. As we grow older, we often find ourselves carrying the weight of others' struggles. Our hearts, full of compassion, urge us to help, to fix, to heal those around us. We might feel that it's our duty to make things right for our loved ones, to step in and provide the solutions to their problems. But in the wisdom of Buddhism, we learn a crucial lesson. We cannot save everyone, and in fact, we should not try. Each person has their own path, their own journey, and their own lessons to learn. The act of stepping in too often, of taking responsibility for the growth of others, may in fact prevent them from learning the lessons that life is trying to teach them. Buddhism calls this practice non-attachment, not in the sense of not caring, but in recognizing the natural boundaries that exist in our relationships. We are not here to fix others. In the Buddha's teachings, there is a deep understanding that suffering is an intrinsic part of life. It is through suffering that wisdom is born. When we step in and try to fix everything for others, we may be robbing them of the opportunity to transform their own struggles into valuable lessons. Consider the story of the Buddha and his relationship with his disciples. It's often told that a young man, deeply troubled by his personal suffering, came to the Buddha for guidance. The Buddha did not immediately offer a solution. Instead, he asked the young man, "What is it you seek to change?" The young man, frustrated, replied, "I wish for my pain to disappear." To this, the Buddha smiled gently and said, "Pain is not the enemy, it is your teacher. By embracing your suffering with awareness, you will learn the depths of your own heart." In that moment, the Buddha didn't offer the young man a quick fix. He didn't promise that all his problems would be solved. Instead, he invited him to let go of his attachment to the idea that pain needed to be avoided at all costs. This act of non-attachment didn't mean the Buddha didn't care for the young man. On the contrary, it was an expression of deep compassion. The Buddha understood that to help someone grow, sometimes the best thing to do is to allow them the space to experience their own struggles, to face their own pain, and ultimately to learn from it. This lesson is something that becomes especially powerful as we age. We can't carry the weight of the world on our shoulders forever. It's tempting, especially as parents, mentors, or friends, to constantly try to step in and save others. We might feel that if we don't intervene, they will falter, fail, or suffer unnecessarily. But what we fail to recognize is that by doing this, we deny them the opportunity to discover their own strength. We deny them the space to develop resilience, to confront the challenges that will ultimately shape them into stronger individuals. This doesn't mean we stop caring. Buddhism never asks us to become indifferent. Compassion is at the very heart of Buddhist teachings, but true compassion is not the same as attachment. To be compassionate means to offer help and love freely, without expecting anything in return and without clinging to the outcome. It means to offer your presence, your kindness, without getting tangled in the other person's struggle. An example of this is the story of the famous Zen master Hakuin. One day, a young woman from the village came to him, claiming that she had been with him in the past and that he was the father of her child. The village was outraged and the community expected Hakuin to deny it and save face. But Hakuin simply replied, "Is that so?" and took responsibility for the child. He raised the baby with no complaints, accepting the situation as it was, not attaching to the drama or judgments of others. Later, when the truth came to light that the woman had lied and that Hakuin was not the father, the villagers were shocked by his grace and composure. Hakuin, however, remained detached, offering no defense and no judgment, simply accepting what came his way without resistance. This is the embodiment of non-attachment, not the absence of care, but the freedom to not be weighed down by the judgments of others. As we age, we start to realize that our role in others' lives is not to carry their burdens for them. It is to walk beside them, to offer compassion, and to support them when they ask for help. But we must also recognize the boundaries of our influence. There is great freedom in this realization. When we stop trying to fix everything, we open up space for others to heal and grow in their own way. We stop holding on to the outcomes, letting go of our attachment to being the one who rescues or saves. This process of letting go is not about indifference or detachment in a cold, aloof sense. It's about practicing deep awareness and understanding that sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do is to step back and allow others to face their challenges. We trust that they will find their way, just as we did, through their own struggles and victories. The power of non-attachment is not only liberating for others, but for ourselves. By releasing our need to control, to fix, or to save, we free ourselves from the emotional weight of taking on others' pain. We give ourselves permission to live more lightly, to conserve our energy for the things that truly matter, our own growth, our own peace, and the joy of simply being present for others without the need to carry their burdens. This practice of non-attachment, rooted in Buddhist wisdom, invites us to embrace life as it is, with all its imperfections, struggles, and beauty. It teaches us to love without clinging, to help without attachment, and to live with a sense of freedom and peace that comes from knowing we are not responsible for the journeys of others. We are only responsible for our own path, and in that we find the deepest peace. Chapter 4: Letting Go of Perfection and Regret. As the years pass and we grow older, it's natural to look back on our lives with a mix of pride and regret. We reflect on the choices we made, the opportunities we missed, and the mistakes we wish we could undo. These thoughts often bring us a deep sense of longing, as if the path we walked could have been smoother, the decisions clearer, and the outcomes better. But in the wisdom of Buddhist teachings, we come to understand a profound truth. Perfection is an illusion, and regret is a heavy burden that keeps us anchored in the past. In our youth, we chase perfection with all our might, convinced that if we just make the right decisions, if we just do things the right way, we will be happy and fulfilled. We often tie our worth to the mistakes we've made, believing that if we had done things differently, our lives would have been perfect. But the Buddha teaches us that perfection does not exist. It is a mirage, a fleeting image that moves just as we approach it. Chasing after perfection is like chasing the horizon. It is an endless pursuit that leaves us exhausted, dissatisfied, and disillusioned. Instead of obsessing over the what could have been, Buddhism invites us to embrace the wisdom that comes from imperfection. Every choice we made, whether it led to success or failure, has been part of the journey that shaped us into the person we are today. Our mistakes are not something to be ashamed of or to run from. They are the very experiences that have deepened our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. There's a beautiful story from the Zen tradition that illustrates this point. A young Zen master was once tasked with painting a picture for the temple. He worked tirelessly, seeking perfection in every brushstroke. But no matter how hard he tried, he felt that something was always wrong with the painting. One evening, frustrated and tired, he went to the temple's elderly master and asked, "Master, why can't I paint the perfect image?" The elderly master looked at him and replied, "The moment you chase perfection, you lose the essence of the moment. True art comes from embracing imperfection." With that simple wisdom, the young monk realized that his desire for perfection was blinding him from the beauty of the present moment. The pursuit of perfection, he learned, had kept him from fully experiencing his own creative process. This lesson is deeply rooted in Buddhist philosophy, where we are taught that attachment to any ideal, whether perfection or success, binds us to the illusion of control and keeps us from embracing the impermanent, ever-changing nature of life. When we let go of perfection, we open ourselves up to the freedom of imperfection. We accept ourselves as we are, with all our flaws, weaknesses, and idiosyncrasies. This acceptance is not about resignation or indifference, it's about liberation. In Buddhism, we are reminded that suffering arises from our attachment to how things should be rather than how they are. By letting go of the need to control outcomes and by releasing our attachment to perfection, we allow ourselves to fully engage with the present moment, free from the burden of regret. A powerful example of this can be found in the life of the great Buddhist teacher, Pema Chodron. She often speaks of the importance of embracing our imperfections with compassion. In one of her teachings, she shares a story of a time when she felt deep regret for mistakes she had made early in her monastic life. Yet, through her practice, she learned to shift her perspective. Instead of seeing mistakes as something to regret, she saw them as valuable teachers that led her closer to the truth. She writes, "When we stop running from our mistakes and embrace them, we discover that they were never the problem. It's the fear of imperfection that holds us back." This teaching speaks directly to our own experience. How often do we beat ourselves up for the mistakes we've made, wishing we could turn back time and choose differently? Yet, in doing so, we fail to see the opportunities that these very mistakes have given us to learn, to grow, and to become wiser. The key is not to dwell on the past, but to understand that it has already shaped us into the people we are today. Letting go of perfection also means letting go of the regret that ties us to a past we can never change. Regret, like perfection, is an illusion. It convinces us that if we had done things differently, we would be happier, healthier, or more fulfilled. But in reality, regret keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-blame and missed opportunities, while the present moment, the only moment we truly have, is slipping away unnoticed. One of the greatest freedoms we can experience is the ability to forgive ourselves. We must recognize that, just like everyone else, we too are learning, growing, and evolving. The mistakes we've made are not marks of failure. They are simply part of our human experience. They have led us to where we are today, and they will continue to shape the person we become in the future. In the end, letting go of perfection and regret is an act of deep compassion toward ourselves. It is an acknowledgement that we are enough as we are, with all our flaws, imperfections, and past mistakes. Only when we stop chasing the elusive dream of perfection can we fully embrace the richness of life as it is, messy, unpredictable, and beautiful in its own way. So, as we continue to grow older, let us learn to release our attachment to perfection. Let us forgive ourselves for the mistakes we've made and allow ourselves to live freely in the present. For it is in embracing our imperfections that we truly find the peace and wisdom that the Buddha spoke of, a peace that comes from within, untouched by the illusions of perfection and regret. Chapter 5: The Liberation of Decluttering. As we age, it's easy to find ourselves holding onto more than just memories. We often accumulate possessions that we believe will bring us happiness or security. We purchase, collect, and store, thinking that the more we have, the richer our lives will be. Yet over time, we realize that what we've gathered has begun to weigh us down, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. The clutter in our homes often mirrors the clutter in our minds, but Buddhism teaches us a different path, one that emphasizes the liberation of letting go. The Buddha, in his teachings, spoke of the impermanence of all things. He reminded us that attachment to material possessions is one of the primary sources of suffering. We mistakenly believe that owning things will provide us with lasting happiness, but instead, we find ourselves bound to these objects. Every item, every possession is an anchor that ties us to the past, to a version of ourselves that seeks fulfillment outside of the present moment. But true happiness, the Buddha taught, comes not from the accumulation of material wealth, but from simplicity. The less we own, the lighter we become, both in body and in spirit. Consider the story of the Buddha's own journey toward enlightenment. Before his awakening, he lived in a palace surrounded by luxury. He had everything he could possibly want: wealth, comfort, power. But despite his material abundance, he felt an emptiness inside. He realized that no amount of possessions could fill the deeper longing for inner peace. It was only when he relinquished everything, his throne, his possessions, and his attachments, that he found true freedom. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom: letting go of what no longer serves us and embracing the simplicity that allows us to connect with our deeper selves. As we grow older, we are invited to follow a similar path. Decluttering is not just about cleaning out our homes, but about cleaning out our minds. In the same way that our physical environment can become overwhelmed with unnecessary items, our minds become cluttered with past regrets, worries about the future, and attachments to things that no longer bring us joy. The act of letting go is not just about releasing material possessions, it's about releasing the attachments and mental burdens that weigh us down. Imagine walking into a room that is cluttered with boxes, old furniture, and items you no longer use. The air feels heavy, the space cramped, and your mind becomes overwhelmed just by looking at the disarray. Now, picture that same room after you've carefully gone through each item, deciding what to keep and what to release. With each item you part with, the room becomes lighter, more spacious, and the energy shifts. It feels like a breath of fresh air has filled the space. This physical act of decluttering can have a profound impact on our mental state. When we let go of unnecessary possessions, we free ourselves from the weight of excess. Each item we release is like shedding a layer of mental baggage, and with each release, we create room for peace, joy, and the beauty of life itself. The Buddha taught that happiness does not come from holding onto things, but from releasing our attachment to them. In doing so, we open ourselves to the true joy that exists in the present moment. The act of decluttering is an opportunity to practice non-attachment. It's a chance to ask ourselves, do I really need this? And does this item bring me peace, or is it just something I'm holding onto out of habit or fear? When we let go of things, we're not just freeing our physical space, we're also freeing our hearts and minds from the attachments that have kept us tied to the past. Every item we release is a step toward greater freedom, greater simplicity, and greater inner peace. There's a Zen story that beautifully illustrates the wisdom of decluttering. A Zen master was once asked by a young monk, "Master, how can I find peace?" The master led the monk to a small, cluttered room filled with old furniture and objects. He instructed the monk to sit in the room and meditate on the clutter. After a while, the monk, frustrated, said, "Master, I cannot concentrate in this room. The clutter is too much." The Zen master smiled and said, "Then let go of what you do not need. Clear your mind, clear your space, and the peace will follow." This simple lesson carries profound significance. In our quest for peace, we often overlook the most straightforward path: to clear away the excess and make room for tranquility. Just as the monk needed to declutter the room to meditate, we too must clear our mental and physical spaces in order to find clarity and peace. The beauty of decluttering is that it is an act of liberation. With each item we release, we are not just giving away physical possessions, we are also letting go of the attachments that have held us back. These attachments can take many forms. The need to hold onto the past, the fear of not having enough, or the belief that more is always better. When we let go of these beliefs, we create room for deeper wisdom, peace, and joy. We stop measuring our worth by what we own and start living fully in the present moment. This process of letting go also invites us to shift our mindset. It is easy to believe that happiness comes from acquiring more, from accumulating possessions, or from having the perfect life. But true happiness, as the Buddha taught, comes from simplicity, from being content with what we have, and from embracing the beauty of the present moment without attachment. In the end, the liberation of decluttering is not just about cleaning out our homes or clearing our minds. It is a practice of non-attachment, of simplifying our lives so that we can make space for the things that truly matter: love, connection, peace, and presence. By letting go of what we no longer need, we free ourselves to live more fully, more mindfully, and more joyfully. In this way, we embody the wisdom of Buddhism, that the less we hold on to, the more we are able to receive. Chapter 6: Embracing Authenticity. As we grow older, we begin to see with greater clarity the ways in which we've lived to meet the expectations of others. In our younger years, the need to fit in, to please, and to seek validation was a driving force in our lives. We sacrificed pieces of ourselves to gain approval, often putting our happiness second to the comfort of those around us. We said yes when we meant no. We held back our true desires to avoid conflict, and we wore masks that hid our true selves. In those years, it felt like the price of love and belonging was the suppression of our own needs and desires. But as the years unfold, a new wisdom emerges. We start to realize that our own happiness is not selfish. It is, in fact, the greatest gift we can give, not just to ourselves, but to the world around us. The more we embrace our authentic selves, the more we bring joy, peace, and love into the lives of those we care about. The act of honoring our true nature is an act of compassion that ripples outward, creating harmony and connection. Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises from attachment, not just to material things, but to the approval and validation of others. The desire to please others, to be accepted, to fit into a mold created by society, is one of the root causes of our inner turmoil. The Buddha's teachings on non-attachment emphasize that true liberation comes from letting go of the need to conform to others' expectations. The path to happiness is found in embracing who we are without fear or shame. Consider the story of the Buddha's life before his awakening. As a young prince, he lived in a palace surrounded by luxury and protection. But despite all his material wealth, he felt a deep emptiness inside. He was conditioned to live up to the expectations of his family and society. He was expected to be a great ruler, to maintain the status quo, and to fit into the role that had been laid out for him. But despite all of this, he realized that he was not living his truth. It was only when he abandoned his royal life, his wealth, and his preconceived notions of who he should be that he began to discover his authentic self. Through years of meditation and self-discovery, he came to understand that true freedom and enlightenment come from within, when we stop living for others and start living for our true selves. As we age, we too are invited to step away from the patterns of people-pleasing and begin to live authentically. We no longer need to wear masks or seek validation. The wisdom of years teaches us that our worth does not depend on how others perceive us. We begin to understand that we are enough just as we are, with all our flaws, quirks, and imperfections, and in this acceptance we find peace. There is a beautiful Zen parable that illustrates the power of embracing authenticity. A young monk, eager to learn the ways of Zen, asked his teacher how to attain enlightenment. The teacher, wise and quiet, looked at the monk and said, "Throw away your idealized image of who you think you should be." The monk, confused, asked, "But how can I let go of something so important?" The teacher replied, "Enlightenment is not something you become. It is the acceptance of who you already are, without pretensions, without striving. The truth is always within you." This story reflects a core Buddhist teaching, that the search for happiness and wisdom is not an external pursuit, but an internal one. It's not about fitting into a mold or conforming to others' standards. It's about embracing who we truly are beneath the layers of expectation. As we age, we may feel the urge to make everyone happy, to fulfill the roles others have placed on us. But the beauty of this stage of life is that we realize the liberation found in saying, no to the things that drain us, and yes to the things that nurture our soul. We begin to prioritize our own well-being, recognizing that the energy we spend trying to please others could be better used to care for ourselves, to cultivate our peace, and to live authentically. Think about it. How much of your life has been spent living according to someone else's script? How often have you sacrificed your own desires, your own truth, to fit into the expectations of family, friends, or society? As we age, it becomes clear that we no longer have the time or energy to carry the weight of others' opinions. Instead, we shift our focus inward and ask ourselves, what do I truly want? What will bring me joy? There's a profound story of a man named Sakyamuni Buddha, a well-respected teacher, who, despite his fame and wisdom, was criticized by many for his unconventional path. People tried to force him into societal molds, expecting him to live like other spiritual teachers of his time. But the Buddha never wavered in his authenticity. He knew that true happiness and peace would only come from living true to his own heart, not from meeting the expectations of others. His journey teaches us that no matter how much others may push us to conform, we must always return to our own center, our own truth. When we embrace authenticity, we also embrace vulnerability. We accept that we are human, that we will make mistakes, and that we don't need to be perfect. This is a liberating shift. The freedom to be ourselves without the pressure of living up to some idealized version of who we should be. We no longer need to hide behind a facade. We can simply be who we are in all our messy, imperfect, beautiful humanity. This freedom is a gift not just to ourselves but to the people around us. When we stop pretending to be something we are not, we create a space for others to do the same. By embracing our authenticity, we encourage others to embrace theirs. This is the essence of compassionate living, to live truthfully, to let go of the need to please, and to accept ourselves as we are. As we grow older, embracing authenticity becomes less of a choice and more of a necessity. The years have shown us that the pursuit of perfection and external validation is exhausting and futile. The real joy comes when we stop striving to be something we are not and instead celebrate the truth of who we are. We must learn to embrace our imperfections, our quirks, and our unique journey. In doing so, we free ourselves from the prison of expectation and step into a life of greater joy, peace, and authenticity. And so, the lesson here is clear. By letting go of the need to please others and embracing who we truly are, we find a joy that transcends external approval. We reclaim our own space, our own voice, and our own path. The people who truly love us will accept us for who we are, and those who cannot will no longer occupy a space in our hearts. In this freedom we find peace, and in this peace we find the most authentic version of ourselves. Chapter 7: The Art of Slowing Down. In today's fast-paced, constantly moving world, slowing down often feels like an act of defiance. We are bombarded with messages that productivity is a measure of our worth, that every moment should be filled with activity, achievement, and movement. The world tells us to keep up, to hustle, to never stop striving. But in the midst of this constant rush, there is a deeper truth that the Buddha teaches us. Life is not a race. It is a journey of presence. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness invite us to reconsider the way we engage with life. So often, we rush from one task to the next, consumed by our to-do lists and overwhelmed by the pressure to accomplish. But in this hustle, we lose something precious, the ability to be fully present in each moment. The Buddha calls us to slow down, to truly live in the now, and to recognize that joy is found not in the destinations we reach, but in the journey itself. Slowing down is not about idleness or inaction. It's about deepening our connection with the world around us, allowing ourselves to savor the beauty of the present moment. It is the practice of mindfulness. Being fully present, fully aware of where we are and what we are doing. In the simple act of slowing down, we become more attuned to the richness of life. Whether it's savoring a cup of tea, listening to the rustling of leaves in the breeze, or feeling the warmth of the sun on our skin, slowing down allows us to experience the world in its fullness. Consider the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, a revered Buddhist monk who often spoke of the beauty of mindfulness in daily life. In his book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, he writes about the importance of slowing down to truly experience the present. He shares a simple practice of washing the dishes. Rather than rushing through the task, he suggests that we fully engage with the act of washing, feeling the water, noticing the soap bubbles, appreciating the warmth and sensation of the water on our hands. When we do this, we are not just washing dishes, we are practicing mindfulness, fully present in the act and experiencing joy in the simplicity of the moment. In our modern lives, we often find ourselves multitasking, eating while checking our phones, having conversations while thinking about our next meeting, walking while planning our day. In these moments, we are not fully present. We may be physically in one place, but mentally, we are somewhere else. By slowing down and becoming present, we can begin to rediscover the joy of these simple, everyday experiences. Buddhism teaches that when we slow down and practice mindfulness, we are not only able to enjoy life more fully, but we are also able to cultivate peace and contentment within ourselves. Slowing down is not an invitation to disengage from life or to stop pursuing our goals. Rather, it's a reminder that the journey itself is as important as the destination. There's a beautiful story about a monk who lived in a small, quiet village. He was known for his peaceful, mindful presence. One day, a young traveler approached the monk and asked, "Master, what is the secret to peace?" The monk smiled and said, "The secret is not in striving for peace, but in embracing the moment. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, and listen to the world around you. In the stillness, you will find peace." This story beautifully encapsulates the Buddha's teachings on mindfulness. We often believe that peace comes from achieving something, from reaching a goal, from completing a task. But peace, true peace, comes when we stop running and start being. When we slow down, we open ourselves to the present moment, and in the present moment, we find everything we need. It is in slowing down that we rediscover the beauty of life. Whether we are walking through a garden, drinking tea, or sitting in silence, these simple moments become filled with meaning when we are fully present. We begin to notice the little things, the way the light filters through the trees, the scent of flowers in bloom, the gentle rhythm of our own breath. These moments, once overlooked in the rush of life, become the foundation of our joy. Slowing down also allows us to reconnect with ourselves. In the fast pace of life, we often lose touch with who we are, what we need, and what truly matters. By slowing down, we give ourselves the space to reflect, to reconnect with our values, and to find clarity. We become more attuned to our inner wisdom, and as a result, we are better able to make choices that align with our true selves. The art of slowing down is a radical act of self-care and compassion. It is a reminder that we do not need to prove our worth through endless activity and achievement. True fulfillment comes when we are present in the moment, when we allow ourselves to enjoy the simplicity of life without the need to chase after anything. In this quietude, we cultivate the inner peace that the Buddha spoke of, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but on our ability to be fully present with what is. As we age, we are given the precious opportunity to slow down. We no longer need to rush through life, checking off tasks or seeking external validation. We have the wisdom to understand that the moments we once overlooked are the ones that hold the deepest meaning. By embracing the art of slowing down, we allow ourselves to experience life in its fullness, and in doing so, we discover the profound joy that comes from simply being. So, let us take a step back from the rush. Let us breathe deeply, savor each moment, and appreciate the beauty of the present. In doing so, we find not only peace but a deeper connection to life itself. Through mindfulness, we rediscover the richness that each moment holds, and we come to understand that life, when lived slowly and fully, is the greatest gift of all. Chapter 8: Letting Go of Worry. As we grow older, the future can seem like an endless sea of uncertainty. Worries about health, finances, relationships, and the unknown stretch out before us, pulling at our peace of mind. It's natural to feel anxiety about what lies ahead, but Buddhism offers a transformative perspective. The future is an illusion. The Buddha teaches that worrying about the future is not only exhausting, it's also a form of self-imposed suffering. The only thing we truly have is the present moment. In the rush of our lives, we often forget that worry does nothing to change the future. It doesn't prevent hardship, nor does it guarantee success. In fact, it only robs us of the peace that is available to us right now. Worry anchors us to a future that hasn't yet arrived and prevents us from experiencing the fullness of the present moment. The Buddha's wisdom invites us to release our attachment to worry, recognizing that it is in the present, not in the future, that we can find peace. Buddhism teaches us that everything is impermanent, including our worries. This simple yet profound teaching allows us to let go of our fear and anxiety about the unknown. When we accept the impermanence of life, we realize that nothing lasts forever, not our struggles, not our worries, and certainly not our fears. Every moment, whether it is filled with joy or suffering, is temporary. By understanding this, we can release the grip that worry has on us. A classic Buddhist story beautifully illustrates this idea. A monk once approached his master and asked, "Master, how do I deal with my fears and anxieties?" The master smiled gently and replied, "Fear and worry are like the shadows of a tree. You cannot chase them away by running forward. Instead, you must stand still and face them. In the stillness, you will see that they have no real substance." This story highlights a key Buddhist practice. Instead of trying to escape worry by looking toward the future, we must learn to be present with it, to observe it without attachment, and in doing so, we begin to dissolve its power. In our younger years, it's easy to be consumed by the constant flow of thoughts about the future. We plan, we dream, and we worry about what might come next. But as we age, we begin to see that many of these concerns were unnecessary. The future remains unknown, and much of what we feared never materialized. The more we engage in worry, the more we give away our power over the present. When we stop obsessing over the uncertainties of tomorrow, we free ourselves to experience the richness of the now. One of the most powerful lessons in Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness, which teaches us to focus on the present moment without judgment or distraction. When we are truly present, we notice the simple beauty of each day. The sound of birds in the morning, the warmth of sunlight on our skin, the taste of food we savor, and the gentle rhythm of our breath. These small, often overlooked moments are where true peace resides. The present moment is all we truly possess, and in it, we find the freedom to release our worries about the future. A beautiful example of this practice can be found in the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, a renowned Vietnamese Buddhist monk. In his book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, he shares a simple but profound practice. When washing dishes, focus solely on the sensation of washing, the feel of the water, the sound of the dishes, the act of cleaning. By immersing yourself in this simple task, you break free from the mental chatter of worry and bring your attention back to the present moment. This practice teaches us that we can find peace not in waiting for something to happen, but in being fully present with whatever we are doing, however mundane it may seem. As we grow older, we begin to realize that our lives have been filled with moments we wished we had paid more attention to. Perhaps it was a conversation with a friend, a walk through the park, or a quiet morning with a cup of tea. In our rush to plan for the future, we miss the beauty of those simple moments. By letting go of worry, we stop future tripping and allow ourselves to sink into the richness of what is happening right now. Letting go of worry is a choice, a conscious decision to shift our focus from fear to gratitude. Instead of dwelling on what might go wrong, we can shift our attention to what is going right. We begin to notice the blessings that are already present in our lives, the love of family and friends, the health we still enjoy, the beauty of nature around us. When we choose to be grateful for what we have, we invite peace into our hearts and quiet the anxious mind. An essential practice for letting go of worry is the cultivation of surrender, not in a passive, defeated sense, but in an active, mindful choice to accept the present as it is. Surrendering to the moment allows us to release our need to control the future and accept life as it comes. It is in this surrender that we find the true freedom to live fully, without the burden of constant worry. There is a Zen story that captures the essence of this practice. A student approached a Zen master and said, "Master, I have so many worries. What can I do to stop worrying?" The Zen master looked at him and said, "The next time you are worried, take a deep breath and say to yourself, 'This is not my worry, I will not carry it.'" The master then added, "By consciously choosing not to take on the worries of the future, you free yourself to live in peace now." This story teaches us that the act of letting go is a mindful choice. Worry is not something that happens to us, it is something we choose to hold on to. By recognizing this, we can learn to release the weight of anxiety, one breath at a time. Every time we let go of a worry, we create more space for peace, more room for joy, and more openness for life to unfold as it will. The Buddha's teachings remind us that the future is a mirage, something we can never fully grasp. It is in the present moment that we find everything we need: peace, joy, love, and freedom. Letting go of worry is an act of reclaiming our power in the here and now. By living fully in the present, we are freed from the shackles of fear, and in that freedom, we find the peace we have always sought. So let go of tomorrow's worries. With every breath, release the anxieties of the future and find the peace that lives in the present. The only true moment is now. In the stillness of this moment, we discover everything we need. As we move through life, especially in our later years, we are presented with an extraordinary opportunity, the chance to simplify. The rush and noise of the world gradually fade as we become more attuned to the quiet wisdom that only time can bring. The Buddha's teachings offer a roadmap to this simplicity. They show us that true happiness is not found in the frantic pursuit of more, but in the art of letting go. We don't need to chase happiness, it's already within us, waiting to be realized through authenticity, acceptance, and peace. Think about it, how many years have we spent clinging to worries, burdens, and expectations? How much of our energy has been devoted to living up to someone else's standards? And how often have we sacrificed our own happiness in the name of fulfilling those demands? Now, as we age, we have the wisdom to understand that all of this can be released. The greatest freedom comes from letting go of what no longer serves us, whether it's the need for approval, the weight of perfection, or the suffocating grip of worry. When we release these burdens, we make space for peace, joy, and wisdom. But here's the truth, this journey of letting go is not an end, but a beginning. It's a profound shift in perspective. The simplicity that the Buddha speaks of doesn't mean abandoning our responsibilities or disengaging from life. It means embracing what truly matters. It means stepping into the fullness of our years with a heart free from the clutter of unnecessary attachments. It's in this simplicity that we find the greatest joy, the purest form of peace, and here's where you come in. Imagine how your life could change if you started letting go of the things that weigh you down. Imagine the freedom that comes from releasing the need to please, from freeing yourself from regret and perfection. This is the path to a life that is not just about surviving, but truly living. This video is just the beginning of a deeper journey toward understanding and embracing these teachings. We've only scratched the surface. If you found this helpful, if it sparked something in your heart, don't miss out on more. There's so much more to discover, so much more to explore. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that we can continue this journey together. The path to peace is waiting for us, and the first step is always in the present moment. Let go, embrace simplicity, and walk with authenticity. You deserve it.